Namo Phat. Good morning. Thanks for joining me for our daily practice check-in. Listen, listen, listen. This beautiful sound calls us back to our true home. The second mindfulness training. Aware of the suffering caused by exploitation, social injustice, stealing, and oppression, I vow to cultivate loving kindness and learn ways to work for the well-being of people, animals, plants, and minerals. I will practice generosity by sharing my time, energy, and material resources with those who are in real need. I'm determined not to steal and not to possess anything that should belong to others. I will respect the property of others, but I will prevent others from profiting from human suffering or the suffering of other species on earth. For our Dharma lessons, we're reading Ajahn Chah's book, Everything is Teaching Us, and continuing in a talk called Wholehearted Training. The Buddha was born in the forest. Born in the forest, he studied Dharma in the forest. He taught Dharma in the forest, beginning with the discourse on the turning of the wheel of Dharma. He entered Nibbana in the forest. It's important for those of us who live in the forest to understand the forest. Living in the forest doesn't mean that our minds become wild like those of forest animals. Our minds can become elevated and spiritually noble. This is what the Buddha said. Living in the city, we live among distraction and disturbance. In the forest, there is quiet and tranquility. We can contemplate things clearly and develop wisdom. So we take this quiet and tranquility as our friend and helper. Because such an environment is conducive to Dharma practice, we take it as our dwelling place. We take the mountains and caves for our refuge. Observing natural phenomena, wisdom comes about in such places. We learn from and understand trees and everything else, and it brings about a state of joy. The sounds of nature we hear don't disturb us. We hear the birds calling as they will, and it's actually a great enjoyment. We don't react with any aversion, and we aren't thinking harmful thoughts. We aren't speaking harshly or acting aggressively towards anyone or anything. Hearing the sounds of the forest gives delight to the mind. Even as we are hearing sounds, the mind is tranquil. The sounds of people, on the other hand, are not peaceful. Even when people speak nicely, it doesn't bring any deep tranquility to the mind. The sounds that people like, such as music, are not peaceful. They cause excitement and enjoyment, but there is no peace in them. When people are together and seeking pleasure in this way, it will usually lead to mindless, aggressive, and contentious speech, and the condition of disturbance keeps increasing. The sounds of humans are like this. They do not bring real comfort or happiness unless words of Dharma are being spoken. Generally, when people live together in society, they are speaking out of their own interests, upsetting each other, taking offense, and accusing each other, and the only result is confusion and upset. Without Dharma, people naturally tend to be like that. The sounds of humans lead us into delusion. The sound of music and the words of songs agitate and confuse the mind. Take a look at this. Consider the pleasurable sensations that come from listening to music. People feel it's really something great, that it's so much fun. They can stand out in the hot sun when they're listening to a music and a dance show. They can stand there until they're baked to a crisp, but they still feel that they're having fun. But then if someone speaks harshly, criticizing or cursing them, they are unhappy again. This is how it is with the ordinary sounds of humans. But if the sounds of humans become the sounds of Dharma, if the mind is Dharma and we are speaking Dharma, That is something worth listening to, something to think about, something to study and contemplate. That kind of sound is good, not in any excessive, unbalanced way, but in a way that brings happiness and tranquility. The ordinary sounds of humans generally only bring confusion, upset, and torment. They lead to the arising of lust, anger, and confusion, and they incite people to be covetous and greedy, to want to harm and destroy others. But the sounds of the forest aren't like that. If we hear the cry of a bird, it doesn't cause us to have lust or anger. May all beings be well. May all beings be happy. May all beings be peaceful. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Thank you so much for joining me today.